Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inspired Messengers Show. I am your host, Mark Porteous, author of Maximizing Your Human Experience and co-founder of the Inspired Messengers Network. You can join the network for free at inspiredmessengersnetwork.com, and I encourage you to do so. Check it out. Our mission is to empower you to share your gifts with the world. You have a very important message, and we want to help you to get the word out. My blessing is supporting awakening souls to recognize their own divinity and empowering them to share their gifts with those they are here to serve. My message is that we are all divine beings of love who can maximize our human experience by aligning with our purpose. My wife and I created the Inspired Messengers Network to help other coaches, mentors, authors, speakers, and healers to fulfill their life's mission. Again, I believe that we're all messengers, and whether you're here to serve one person, hundreds, or even millions, I'm here to support those who are inspired to share their message. And one of the biggest problems that we face as messengers is overwhelm. In fact, the bigger the message, the greater the overwhelm can be. And our guest today is going to help us, both you and I and everyone listening, to reach more people so we can make a greater impact and income while enjoying life more. Our guest is Ric Thompson. He's an internet visionary and unrepentant parallel entrepreneur whose career has secured his spot as one of today's top behind-the-scenes industry giants. As co-founder of Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise publishing empire with over 160,000 subscribers, as well as his newest company, Done For You Solutions, where he helps small business owners get more done through virtual teams, he continues to set a standard for online business done right. Through a combination of his real-world experience of starting, buying, and selling multiple businesses, both online and off, Ric has learned the hard way how to create the most leverage in the day-to-day operations of small business. He's been featured in Mark Joyner's The Worst Case Scenario Business Survival Guide and Keith Leon's book, Who Do You Think You Are? I didn't even realize that. He was actually our guest last month. He did a whole 5-part series. And then as well as the author of Outsource This Now, How to Triple Your Profits Through Smart Outsourcing, which was an Amazon bestseller in technology outsourcing. And now it's time for you to learn from his mistakes and successes to take your business where it needs to go, up. So hello, Ric. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I'm excited to be here as part of the Inspired Messengers Network. It's a great concept. You guys do some fantastic stuff.
Well, thank you. And we've actually been connected on and off over the last couple of years, and I've been able to watch what you do both through Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, and now with Done For You Solutions. And I've really been excited because I know that that's one of the challenges that a lot of the people, my clients and people in our community have talked about, is that there's just so many steps to getting their message out. There's so much mechanics behind it. We had a whole training course on mindset, mechanics, and marketing for your message. And the mechanics is really what got a lot of people hung up. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Before we get into it, can you tell us a little bit about where you came from, how you started on this journey, and a little bit about where you are today?
Well, let's go back then to the beginning of Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. I won't bore you with all the stuff before that. I used to do stuff offline and so forth. But what our founding vision for Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise is very similar to what you're doing here. Was supporting folks who were in effect messengers. The speakers, the authors, the experts. And so we had an online magazine, and we did interview series, seminar series, and products and books, and all to support other folks and help get their messages out there. And we started doing so many different things and so many different little niches and markets that people would kind of ask us, how are you doing all this stuff? And can I borrow your team to do my stuff? So it became a joke, with so many people kind of asking us that. And in 2010, we made the jump and decided to make the joke a reality and I started Done For You Solutions, which has been my passion because I'm very much passionate about small businesses and the idea of, the impact and the power that these kind of companies have in the world, in our communities and whatever. So the model has changed a few different times over the years, but we've been going strong since 2010, and we're here to in effect, provide the team that I started with, the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, has grown and evolved. But the idea behind it is that people can now tap into my team and use it to get that day-to-day stuff done, so that they can be the inspired messenger and not have to worry about the distractions of the day-to-day grunt work, shall we say, that has to be done to build that business.
And we're going to talk a little bit, well, we're going to talk quite a bit about the mechanics and how you built that team and how others can build their own team with or without your help. But when we did our preview interview, you talked about one of the first things that we need to work on, which is the mindset. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the mindset of the solopreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. So, even if you're not a solopreneur, I know probably a lot of folks on the call here, you're a messenger, you're working for yourself, you're working your tail off, you're it. So your mindset that you've trained yourself to have is, let me just do it all. I'll just do it, right? You know, something comes up, I will take care of it. A problem occurs, I will solve it. It's always me, I. And that becomes a trap. It becomes a ceiling, if you will, that maxes us out. So let me give you some numbers to think about here, Mark. Okay, this is where this mindset leads to. And these numbers I'm about to give you come from the U.S. Census Bureau. So if you're listening from around the world, I promise you the concepts are the same. The numbers may be different in your country, but let's just kind of focus on the U.S. because that's the best source of data I've got. There are about 22.5 million solopreneurs, people who work by themselves for themselves. Okay. Those people average $45,000 a year annually. $45,000 a year. Now, Mark, I don't know about you, but that number is not an exciting number, right? I mean, that's not a number that you really were like, wow, I want to start my own business to make $45,000 a year, right? And yet that's reality. And to make it worse, those people are working an average of 70 hours a week. So let's look at this, right? 70 hours a week is 12-hour days, 5 days a week, plus 10 more hours squeezed in the weekend. Now, I've been there. You know, sometimes I'm still there on projects. I get it. But that's what these folks' lives look like. That's the average, $45,000 a year, 70 hours a week. Some people are doing better. Half of people are doing worse. Well, what's the other side of that? You know, what if we break out of this phenomena of let me just do it all? It's all on me. You know, a variation of that concept is also, and we'll talk about this more later, Mark, is I am my business. You know, people tend to equate of I'm the coach, I'm the messenger, right? It's all me. And they tend not to separate themselves from their business. So I'm going to get back to that in a minute, but let me paint you a picture of what things look like, again, with some stats of where things go beyond this. So the next category that the Census Bureau tracks is what I'm going to call super small businesses. About 5.5 million of them here in the U.S. They average annually $450,000, a little over that. So 10 times the revenue. So now we're talking, right? Now we're getting into the range of that's what I wanted to start a business for. Here's the kicker. The average number of hours worked in a week. Now remember, the solopreneur works 70 hours. So these super small businesses, how many hours per week? 180. We're talking about your 70 and a few part-timers, and now we're getting 10 times the financial results. I mean, that's massive. We're not talking about 10 people working 70 hours a week plus you, right? It's you, it's a handful of part-timers, massive, massive leverage here. Because, you know, you are not your business. Your business can achieve a whole lot more, right? You're leveraging the skills, the time, the experiences of other people to get stuff done. So it's not a situation of 1 + 1 = 2, right? It's 1 + 1 = 11, you know?
Yeah, and then exactly like when you said you're not even tripling, you're just barely over doubling your work hours to get 10 times the return.
Well, let's dive into that because, you know, you're not doubling your work hours. The business is, right? And I think that's the biggest mindset shift is that there's a little dirty little secret behind time management, right? We as entrepreneurs, a lot of us love time management. Let's get more effective. Let's get more productive. Because if I can do more, my business will do more, right? It's that whole thing. here is the dirty little secret behind time management. And I'm actually the author of a book, so I'm sharing this in full disclosure. No matter how good you get, no matter how effective or productive you are, you will never get more than 24 hours in a day, period. I mean, no matter what. But your business is not you. To your business, time is very scalable. There are people all over the world who will give you a portion of very, very limited, very scarce time to help you build your business. So, your business is not limited to 24 hours a day. It can be super, super scalable. And that's a major mindset shift of you're not limited to just you. Your business is and should be far more than just your 24 hours in a day.
Well, when you look at it as like an investment, investing in somebody else's time so that you don't have to spend as much of your time, and investing so that you can get a 10-time return on that amount of time that you're spending. A lot of people think, well, I don't have the money up front to do it, or it's an investment. I'm not guaranteed that I'm going to get 10 times the amount of money from that.
Yep.
But they're guaranteed that if they don't do something different, they're going to still be stuck in the same situation they're in now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, half of the solopreneurs are making more than $45,000 a year. You could be the exception. You could be in the top 25%, whatever. But it's very, very clear that you're still limiting yourself. So, are there downsides or are there challenges, I should say, in expanding your team? Absolutely. It's a new skill set, right? We were not born with the knowledge of how to delegate, or how to outsource, or how to build up a team. But most of the challenges, like you mentioned, in terms of like cost, outsourcing is not like hiring a full-time employee and having the government regulations. You don't have to outsource full-time employees. I mean, I'm sure everyone has heard of at least the site called Fiverr, right? Fiverr.com, where for $5 you can get so many little things done. I mean, if you can get started with outsourcing, you can started with $5. If your business can afford that, you're already out of business. I'm sorry, And obviously there's a lot of expansion between that level and hiring a staff of full-time people, a lot of room. And then that's kind of what we're talking about here is putting that together.
And I want to talk about some of the details about what's involved in putting together a team. Before we do that, I want to address some of what I call the challenges, the myths or misconceptions that I've had, or that I know that some of my clients have had around hiring a team versus Fiverr, because we use Fiverr all the time. My wife and I have been in discussions for the 2.5 years that we've had this business about doing more outsourcing. She's the one who again does all the technology. She's the one who finds the people on either Fiverr or Odesk. But to say I'm going to hand over a certain responsibility regularly, she starts to get the shakes thinking about losing that control, because she's a bit of a control freak.
Right.
What do you say to the person who's concerned about that?
So there are lots of things in there, but to the control freak issue specifically, it's really simple. You be the control point. You be the quality control, quality assurance. Okay. So you want to give me an example? I mean, I've got a million of them, but like a newsletter or something like that, right? Where
newsletter's a good one.
Okay. All right. So newsletters, right? Oh my gosh, everybody on my list is going to see this. It needs to be perfect. It needs to be really, really good. Fine. If I'm going to assume that your newsletter follows a pretty standard template, if you've done it over time, templates usually do. Newsletters, here's a content piece, here's an ad, here's a content piece. You've got a template, you got a system, right? So you instruct, you train your team, you have the newsletter produced, and before it goes out, you take 5 minutes to take a look at it and say, is this right or not? Nobody else in the world will see that until it crosses your desk. But that newsletter probably took a couple of hours to put together. Well, what would you rather do? Take the few hours to put it together yourself, or the 5 minutes to say, yep, that looks good, get it out? So you still maintain control, but you don't have to do the grunt work.
And I think that when she talks about control, she's talking about controlling the process too, like the whole training thing. And I think you alluded to that you train your team. She's concerned that if it takes longer to train the team than it takes to do the job. An example for her when I ask her for tech support on something, she says, if it takes you longer to write the email than it does for you to do it, don't send me an email, just do it. And so she feels the same way about some of those other projects. But I see long term, okay, it might take her longer to train them how to do the first newsletter, but once you get trained, then they know what to do. I'm assuming that's...
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if it's a one-off type of thing and it's only going to take a few minutes to do, then obviously just do it, because there is an investment here in having this team, right? So if it's something that gets done over and over and over again, it's repetitive, right? Even if it's just, a couple times a month, but it's done a couple times every month, then yes, the first few times there is an investment in getting your team up to speed. This is not a short-term play. But a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, you're freeing up how many hours of your time, because you made that investment in the beginning to train the team on your process, on your system. And then it becomes, in a way, like a robot, where it's programmed and off it goes.
And I know people who have spent as much money learning how to do a project as they could to have somebody doing it for them for a year. Like a good example is web design or copywriting. But web design is a perfect one, where people are learning what they need to put in there and learning how to do that, learning to set up their email sequences, or even setting up your email autoresponders, and to invest so much money into learning how to do it yourself. And that's one more thing now on your plate, instead of finding somebody that can do that repeatedly.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that a little bit. I had a client one time that was a WordPress expert. Now, that was not his business. He spent a year and a half learning WordPress because he felt that he needed to, because that was the platform his business was going to be based on. And of course, during the conversation, he shared that, if I knew then what I know now, I would have taken a couple of weeks to figure out what WordPress could do for me, and then I'd pay somebody else to go do it, so I could spend the next year and a half building up my business. So here's my advice. Do you need to be a techie? No. Do you need to know how to push all the different buttons? No. But you do need to know what your platforms can do. What are their capabilities, right? What are they supposed to be able to do for you? And then let somebody else press the buttons. But if you've got, I don't know, if you've got a shopping cart system that doesn't handle recurring products, and you want to sell recurring products, don't give it to your team and have them go set it up if it doesn't work, right? I mean, you need to know what your platforms are capable of, but you don't need to know how to do all the little final details of setting everything up. It's just not, it's not worth it. You mentioned websites, WordPress installs, videos, right? Lots of people love doing videos nowadays. So they think automatically, I have to learn how to edit my videos. Well, my God, I no way, and it's not going to happen. For me, right? There's no way. But other people, like you mentioned, they get caught up in that. Oh, okay. Well, let me just go edit it and make sure it's perfect before I can. Instead of just sending it off to a video editor and saying, clean out all the ums and ahs, chop off the dead time in the beginning, add in this little intro, and then I will review it once you're done and make sure it's good to go for publication. I mean, it's. Again, for one-shot stuff, maybe not worthwhile. But if you're doing things over and over and over again, absolutely worth the investment. But that's part of the mindset too. Is it is an investment. It's not going to be necessarily an instant win. Does that make sense?
Totally, it totally makes sense. One of the other challenges that we had talked about was people feeling clueless about the process. To tell us a little bit, how do we go through the process of hiring a team, or even just finding out what they can do, or getting some type of VA support?
So lots of different things, and I think this is going to be part of the theme overall for the call, right?
Yeah.
I think first of all, when you are looking for outsourcers, rule number one is to start small. There is a tendency that I see out there, and we were talking about this too, that the nightmare situations that result of delegation by abdication. Hey, I've got this project, go do it, right? And you want to just kind of wash your hands of it, and they magically do all this for you, and they read your mind, and ta-da, it's done, right? Like a whole new website or something like that. So the step number one is to realize that you have to start small, that they don't read your mind, you're not going to read their mind, and you need to clearly define what you're trying to do, and do like a test project. So, if you're not going to hire a team, you're going to put together your own team one by one, then don't find just one web developer. Find 2 or 3 different web developers, 4 or 5 web developers, and have them do like a piece of your website. Have them do like a homepage. Here's your deadline. Here's what I want. Go do it. And that way you're seeing who can produce for you the fastest, who can produce for you the best, who's got the best communication skills, things like that. Because how do we normally do things, Mark? Right? We meet with one person, we give them the task, they screw it up, we've lost that money, we've lost that time. Now let's go find person number 2. They screw it up, because your success rate when you hire individual people is about 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 5. If you hire 3, 4, 5 people at once with a small, cost-effective test project, you bang it out, you weed through all the crappy people at once, and there you go, you found your one hidden gem buried in there somewhere. So if you're going to do your own team, that's the best bit of advice I can give you right now for doing it, because it's yes, a little extra cost in the beginning because you're paying these 4 or 5 people for a little test project, but you're saving weeks or months to do it. And just as a quick side note, to kind of pay attention to the how and not just the what. Pay attention to how they communicate, how is their attitude, how are they meeting your deadlines? Because if you get a good person that doesn't quite clearly understand your project 100%, but they've got all those other attributes, you can train them. You can say, look, you got this bit wrong, you got that bit wrong. But if they got a bad attitude or bad communication, or they don't meet your deadline, forget it. They're never going to be a good match for you. Does that help?
It totally does. And I think that's such a great tip. I want to go over that a little bit more. And for anybody who may not have grasped that completely, and the value of what you just shared about doing a test project, can you give us an idea of an example? Because you said something that's cost effective. What can be a small test project? Can you think of 2 or 3 things that people could use?
Sure. So let's go back to the website example. That's a great example. I can't tell you how many horror stories I've heard of people hiring a website development company for $5 grand, 10 grand, and then it becomes a nightmare, right? Because they've agreed to do the entire project from the beginning based upon a few recommendations or how that company's website looks or whatever. How about just do the homepage? Forget all the other pages of the website. Let's just do a web, or better yet, just put together a web page design for me. Don't even build it. Just do a design for me. I want to see what it's going to look like before you spend the time and money to go build it. That's one example. Let's say you're a speaker, right? You're a messenger, you're a speaker. You've got a presentation coming up that you're going to do. You need 100 slides looking really sharp for this presentation, right? You've got the copy, you've got the text, but you want to kind of jazz it up a little bit. You want to put your logo in there and some other stuff, maybe some effects. And it's due next Thursday, because that's when your presentation is. You don't want to send the full 100 slide project out to somebody and hope they get it done by Wednesday night without having worked with them before. Now, if you've worked with them before, then great, you've got that relationship. But this is your first time. Find 2 or 3 people, give them 5 slides, give them 10 slides, and say, I have to have it back in tomorrow or in 2 days. Let's see who can meet your deadlines, who can do those 5 or 10 slides that look great, and tell them, if you bang this out, I've got the rest of the 100 slide presentation for that I'll pay you for.
And that gives them the carrot. And you also mentioned something about letting them know that other people are working on it as well.
Absolutely. Let them know that this is a competitive position. I've got this presentation. There are 100 slides. I will have other presentations. You will be my go-to person. But here is this test project. This that I'll pay you for is 5 slides, is 10 slides. Because, man, if someone knows flat out up front this is a competition and there's a lot more work behind it, and they still won't give you their A game, they're never going to give you their A game, right? It's never going to happen. They just don't want your work. And you'll find the excuses. It's oh, I couldn't meet the deadline. Can you give me one more day? Well, no, because I got this other guy who already met the deadline. I'll use him or her.
Yeah, and that's such a great example, because I think most people can relate to that, the idea of the competition, and understanding that if people won't put it out up front, that they're not going to do it later. It made me think about, I've just been through a month of house hunting in our move, and we were renting a townhouse, and here I'm reaching out to all of these property managers, And some of them didn't get back to me for 3 or 4 days. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to get back to me for 3 or 4 days when I'm about to invest, every month in your company, then I know you're not going to call me when I need something fixed in the house.
A great point. Exactly. Good, because how they treat you in the beginning is going to be pretty much how you can expect to be treated long term. That's just the way it works. Yeah.
And you talked about comparing 3 to 5 people doing the same job, and that usually it's 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 5 that works out. How does Done For You Solutions lessen that? Like, we don't want to go through 3 to 5 of your outsources in order to find something that works.
So sure. So what we do internally is, I don't want to give you the long story, Mark, because we do a pretty involved interview process. We do a testing process. The typical client goes through multiple interviews. They go through testing, and then they will do a final interview with me personally, and then we'll give them test work. So as an example, we're going to bring on a new web developer. His name is Vince. He starts on Tuesday. So right out of the gate, so we've already gone through the full testing interview process with them, and then I assign him a project for myself. So for him, we're going to have him take a look at the Done For You Solutions website, and okay, what can we do from an SEO standpoint? The guy's got a lot of background in SEO. Let's see what he's got. So I'm going to use him personally before the clients get him. So you can look at that in a selfish reason, which sometimes it is. But the flip side of that is that I want to know how that guy works. I want to know how a virtual assistant works. So I give them projects for my own internal company so in other words, they're already tested, they're already proven, they're already linked into the system. Worst case scenario, taking this the next step, a great example is a graphic designer. No matter how good or how professional a graphic designer is, if their style, if what they produce does not match what you like, your style, it's never going to be a good match. So for us, we have multiple graphic designers. So if you don't like that one graphic designer, then we just swap that person out typically in 24 hours and say, hey, how do you like this? Or alternatively, again, with the graphic design model, what we can do frequently is let's have 2 or 3 different designers in our company produce mock-ups for you or produce logo ideas for you or whatever, and then you pick the designer based upon what they've worked up for you. Takes a few extra hours in the beginning, but same concept. You've got a pool of proven people, and you're finding the one that matches your style to move forward with. And like I said, worst case scenario, we swap them out in 24 hours for somebody else that hopefully has a better style that matches you.
And that brings up another thing when you're talking about skills. When we were talking earlier, we were talking about how somebody might have a VA. They hire a VA, and their VA does everything for them. They do their newsletter, they do their web design, they do their auto sequencing. We talked about the challenges about that, but can you tell us a little bit about being a jack of all trades?
Sure. Well, I think there are. So first of all, let's acknowledge the fact that's a very exciting, sexy idea, right? Let me get somebody in my company that can do all this stuff and free me up from all of it. Good to go. I mean, it doesn't get a much better solution than that in theory. The challenge is that one person can only know so many things and do so much. They only have 24 hours in a day. So there are only 2 possible scenarios that work out from this. Let me go get one person, they do all this stuff. Scenario number 1 is what you described. They do it. They do your website, they do your newsletter, they do all this stuff all in one place. The challenge with that is that you've then just basically set off a ticking time bomb, because at some point they're going to get a better offer. They're going to have personal problems, family problems or health problems, or they just get bored or whatever. And now this person goes away, and your entire business goes with it because they did everything, and now your business climbs to a complete stop. Scenario number 2 is more typical, which is frankly just doesn't happen. You can't do it all. There's no way a single VA can do it all either. In today's world, I mean, here we are doing a video, Mark, right? I mean, we're talking about technology and editing this video, getting up on your website. Well, but then there's the website. Somebody has to design and build the website. Maybe you've got a virtual assistant helping you coordinate the times of the guests that you're interviewing, right? And this whole process has different skill sets, different mindsets. different levels of experience that are needed to do all these different things to build your business. It's pretty much impossible to find one person that can do all of this stuff, and it's available and affordable for you right this second. I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, you've got to have a team. So, hey, not knocking VAs, Mark. I've got them. It's a great place to start, but it just acknowledges the fact that that's where you're starting. Ultimately, you're going to have a team, and that's the way everybody succeeds out there. You can't shake a stick at an exception to that. I mean, well, you're super connected, Mark. I mean, just kind of put you on the spot, right? All these speakers, all these experts, and all these authors, and all these businesses. Do you know of a single one of them that has succeeded at a high level, an exciting level that you'd like to succeed at, and they've done it all themselves? They do their website themselves. They do their customer support by themselves. They edit their own videos. They do all their admin. Name one. Can you name one?
Not a single one. Absolutely.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And it kind of goes back to that that mindset, right? Of, let me just take care of this. Problem pops up, I'll just do this. Here's a task list, I'll do all the tasks. Right? They're at odds. There's that mindset of go, 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 let's get stuff done. And then if you step back and you look at it realistically, nobody succeeds at a high level without a team. It doesn't happen. So that's kind of, pay attention to that mindset and that trap that it can be in, because realistically, look around, it doesn't work. It can't.
And that leads into another topic that we wanted to discuss about delegation. You mentioned Steve Covey's 5 levels of delegation. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I would love to. I was so stoked when I found this a number of years ago. The late, great Stephen Covey put out what he calls the 5 levels of delegation, if I can say that properly. And it really helps to clear up misconceptions in how people are using outsourcing, or how people are delegating to their own, employees even. So level 5 is like the dream situation, where you pass off a task and you say, hey, go do this. It gets done. It comes back. Perfect. Ta-da, that's it. There's like very little interaction. It's like, go do this, and it comes back. Ta-da, you're done. That can be built up to. That's the result of a long-term relationship of somebody who has done that task multiple times before, like your newsletter. At some point, that person who's done it a dozen times before is on autopilot. You say, go do this week's newsletter. They say, okay, boss. They come back. It's done. It's good. You're all set. That's level 5. That is not where it starts. That's what everybody wants. That's what everybody can, that's what a lot of folks kind of dream of when they start their outsourcing adventures, right? Level 5, magic. Level 1 is where it starts, where these folks know nothing. They don't know a thing about your business. They don't know a thing about how you run your business, how you want these tasks done, nothing. They may have done similar things for other people, but how you do stuff in your business is unique to your business. So you have to take the investment and train them to program them in a way of saying, look, this is exactly what I want done. This is how I want it done. This is the process, and kind of walk them through it step by step. Take that investment, take that time to spell it out for them, to teach them, to train them, get up to level 2 and level 3 and level 4 and level 5. And of course, you can go through that with Stephen Covey stuff. I'm sure if you kind of Google it, it's around. We do give a copy of that to all of our clients. But the point being, you're starting at level 1. It's not as pretty as level 5, and that's reality. That's where you start. That's where everybody starts. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, Mark, of, hey, if it's a 5-minute task and it's a one-shot, go ahead and do it. But if it's a repeat task, it's worth the investment. You realize you come in at level 1, you can get to level 5, but it's not an immediate tomorrow type of thing. It does take time and training, that investment.
And that's something I'm curious about as well, because that kind of is one of the topics that we started off at the beginning with, the quality control, the training process of how we would have to train a VA. Do you support your clients in that process of training the VA? Because a lot of times I need things done that I don't know how to do. But you also say that your VA is not supposed to do the thinking.
So yeah, that's a great question. We should get into strategy versus execution. So let's come back to that and remind me because I'll probably forget. Um, when I mean training, I mean let's take video editing, right? Like a video editor can edit videos, right? They can. But when you send the video over and say, edit this for me, what does that mean? What are you looking for, right? Because some folks want like the background audio cleaned up. Some folks want sections chopped out, you know, and their reaction is sort of like, well, of course the person would chop this part out or chop that part out. It's obvious. Well, no, it's not in the VA. They have no idea what you want. None, zero. Now, after they've done it a half a dozen times for you, yes, they very well might. So I'm not saying you have to train them on use this tool and push this button. What I'm saying is spell out exactly what do you want as the end result. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Not how you want, but what it is that you want. Does that help? Does that make sense?
It does. And I just kind of want to tease everyone and let everybody know that you do have a very special bonus for anybody that's on the call here today. So we're going to get into that in a minute. It's incredibly valuable. I'm really grateful that you're sharing that. But you had mentioned strategy versus execution.
Yep.
Let's talk about that a little bit first before you explain how people can take advantage of their free bonus.
Okay. Let's do this. Grab a sheet of paper.
Okay.
You're listening, get one handy here, and a marker, a pen, pencil. I don't know. Prick your finger with, get some blood going. Whatever you need to do. All right.
I got my notebook.
And yeah, I've got. Instead of doing lined paper here, I'll do white paper. Let's do this. So draw a circle and divide it vertically and horizontally for me. All right. So it looks like a 4-slice pizza. So I'll put this up here. You can see that. So just look like that, a circle, right? Divide it into quarters. This is how any project should get done in your business. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care who you're doing it for, like what company it is. Let's walk you through this real quick. The top left quadrant is where every project starts. This is the dream it quadrant, okay? So this is the, whoa, wouldn't it be awesome if I started this network to support messengers? Oh, and I could call it the Inspired Messengers Network, right? And we could do this and we could do that. And there are all these sexy, powerful, exciting ideas, but there's no real structure here, right? But this is where everything starts, right? This is the back of the cocktail napkin. This is the, I get my ideas in the shower, you know, or a couple of beers at the bar, whatever it is, right? But obviously, if it stops there, the project dies. So what's the next step? The next quadrant, we're going top right. We're going clockwise around your circle. So the top right is think it. Walk through. This is a mind map. This is a process flow. If the dreaming quadrant handles the question of why would this be so cool? Why is this so exciting? Why is this so sexy? Then the think it quadrant is questions like what, when, and where. So real quick, if it's a website project, you know, what's the domain name going to be? What pages do you need? What functionality do you need, like opt-ins and so forth? Maybe I need a page to support my speaking career, or how many book gigs. When do these different sections need to be done? Where's it going to be hosted? These are not detailed questions. These are all mapping this baby out. When the website is done, what do you want it to do for you, right? So when you get that done, the third quadrant, bottom right, is the task it quadrant. All right, and the task it quadrant is basically who, because as you've gone through the think it process, you've nailed down, you know, on the home page, I need an opt-in form and it's going to connect to my Aweber or my constant contact, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, right? So who's going to do these different tasks that you've laid out? And then the final quadrant is the do it quadrant. So that's the bottom left quadrant. So it goes dream it, think it, task it, do it, as we go circular fashion around the quadrant. Well, if you look at this, separate the top half from the bottom half, okay? So what you end up looking at, I'm going to do another quick sloppy diagram here. So the top half is the dream it and the think it, right? This is very ugly, so apologize, guys. I never passed kindergarten with my drawing skills. So dream it and think it are at the top. These are strategic, right? You're the only person in the world who can dream this vision up. This is your vision. This involves your message. Now you have to be involved in thinking it through. Now you can get a consultant or a coach or something to help you with that, but that's strategic. What is your website supposed to do to support your business? The tasking of who's going to do it and the actual doing it, that's execution level work, okay? It just so happens that for any project, typically your tasking and your doing is like 80%, 90% of the work spent on a project. It's, how long did it take you to create that dream? I mean, really, it just doesn't take very long. The mapping, a few days, maybe like a week for a massive, massive project, but then to actually get the people on board and get them going and get them to do the work, that's the massive, massive part of the work. So the benefit of separating the top half and the bottom half is, number one, the top half is strategic. That's where you need to be. As the CEO of your business, as the president of your business, focus on that. Let the other people, as much as humanly possible, handle the bottom level execution of the project. That is one way to, of course, to optimize your 24 hours in a day. It lets your business scale up because you've got other people's 24 hours in a day handling other things, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're working with a VA, wrapping that back around, you don't want to hire a VA to handle strategic level work. If they are also doing that and they're doing it well, they are not a VA. They are also not charging VA rates. They are a coach, they're a consultant, and that's very, very helpful. But just be clear on that separation, because they have very, very different purposes, and typically they have very, very different costs associated with those types of folks. So hopefully that kind of draws that distinction between strategy and execution. You have to have both, but very different skill sets, very different purposes, and again, usually very different expenses when you're kind of outsourcing this.
And that's a perfect segue actually right into the topic of your free offer and how you go about helping people take care of that lower hemisphere.
Yeah.
First, tell us about what you're offering and how you support us.
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, Done For You Solutions is, just to kind of spell it out real quick, we are a full virtual team. Okay, so we've got all the different web designers and developers and video editors, customer support people, researchers, admin stuff, a wide variety of stuff all in one place. But it is all worker bee level stuff. We are not doing execution. So if your question is like should type questions, that's not us. Find a coach, find a mentor, find a consultant. You don't want a web developer giving you marketing advice for how your website should perform, right? They're there to build your website. So that's what we do. We do the worker bee stuff. And we do it all in one place. All these folks have worked for me. They work with other clients. They're already connected to each other. They're ready to go. You basically can rent them from me on an as-needed basis to get your work done. So to help kind of compensate, if you will, for the fact that odds are pretty good. I think we mentioned this too, Mark, that lots of folks at outsourcing have been burned before, have run into problems before. I get that. There's a lot of solutions out there that are not necessarily optimal. I am more than happy to provide your listeners and members an opportunity where I'm going to pay for the first 10 virtual team hours. So they can see how my team works. They can communicate with the team and find out if this is going to be a good solution for them ongoing. So, hey, 10 hours, let's be transparent. This is not going to skyrocket your bottom line, right? This is not going to transform a massive problem into a solution for you, but it's certainly plenty of work for you to say, you know what, this team can work. This team can get these things done for me. So I pay for the first 10 hours. It's meant to be a 14-day free trial. And then moving forward from that on an ongoing basis, you pick the package that you want. I think we can give them the link here in just a second. And then we go from there. And it's a month-to-month type of thing. It's not, we're not project-based. We are meant to be an ongoing support, but we don't lock you into a long-term contract. It's very much a month-to-month type of thing. Because sometimes, companies have busy times and we need to support their internal staff to expand. Sometimes they're in a launch and need support, and sometimes it just takes them a year or two to get to the point where they can hire their own internal company. We provide that bridge for them. So the only other thing to kind of add here, Mark, as part of this is that right after they register, they go to the link we're about to give them here in a second, and they grab a spot. Part of the process will be to book a free one-on-one call with me to get them started properly. So this is not a salesperson or another coach or consultant. They will actually be talking with me personally. 20-minute call, 30-minute call, making sure that things get off on the right foot, and off we go on the free trial.
And tell me a little bit about the free trial, because I could imagine that some people would say, okay, well, 10 hours, what can we get done in 10 hours? Can we build a website in 10 hours? And how does that process go about even just figuring out what you want your PA to do?
So yeah, a couple things in there. If you know what you need to get done, that always makes life easier because you've got worker bees, right? So they can help you get stuff done. And of course, I can help a little bit on that initial call as well. That's part of the reason why the getting started session is there, right? To kind of get people clear on where to get started. And then from there, it's what can get done in 10 hours. It varies. You know, what do you need to get done? Some folks have they want a logo. Okay, well, we can easily put together a bunch of logos and here you go in 10 hours and tweak it and finalize it. Can we do a full website in 10 hours? It's been done, but how large and complex of a website is this? How many different, what kind of functionality do you want in this? Is this a 3-page simple website, or is this going to be a 10-page website with lots of bells and whistles? How clear on it that you want to be? Do we have to go back and forth 20 different times? Or are you clear? This is what I want, build this, and I'm happy. There's lots and lots of variables in there, Mark, of what can be done in 10 hours. But that's the beauty of this, is instead of limiting you, we work with you. So it's not done until you say it's done. You're not boxed in, you're not limited. If you want to play with it and go back and forth a zillion times, we can do that. We're not going to complain because that's how we're built. Will it take you more time to do that project? Absolutely. This is just as if you had people in your office doing that for you. At the same time, if you're clear on what you want, then bang, 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 we get it done and over to you.
And as I'm thinking about it, I can think of all the questions that come up in my head, and you're talking, I'm thinking about what questions might be coming up in everyone else's head. So anybody that is watching now, feel free. You can go into the chat box over there and post your questions. I'm looking for those. And if you still have questions, or if you're watching the replay of this, we'll make sure that you have contact information so you can reach Ric directly. Do you want to go ahead and share? Can I share the link so people can check that out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's doneforyouSolutions.com/Mark, M-A-R-K. doneforyouSolutions.com/Mark, and that's a special page where you can go and register for your free 10-hour trial and your coaching session with Ric to see how Done For You Solutions can help support you in getting your message out there.
Beautiful. And you're going to find some more information on that page when you go to Done. It's all spelled out, by the way. No spaces, no dashes, all spelled out. doneforyouSolutions.com/Mark. And you will see some more details about the different types of things that we can do. So if you've got those questions, if you're not sure of that we can do what you need to do, grab a spot. Before your trial starts, you and I will talk. I can answer your questions directly. I will let you know what we can do and can't do. And if it's not a good fit, then we just cancel out your trial and we part as friends and off we go. If we do, then you have the opportunity to let me prove it to you and let the team get started on the work for you.
Fantastic. Very good. And so once we go through the process, you've actually got different team members that do different things. So like if you're talking about a newsletter, it would be a certain group of people. How do you coordinate that? Do we speak directly to each of the different assistants, or do we send you the work and then you send it to the appropriate person?
So it's a great question. On an ongoing basis, you are assigned an account coordinator, and that coordinator is to do exactly that, coordinate. So when you say, hey, I've got a new project, I need a newsletter done, or I need this website page added, or I need a video done, or I've got this research task, you let your AC know, your account coordinator know, and they get a person from the company onto your team and rock and roll. We like to keep those people stable. So if you've used them before, then ideally you are using them again, unless there was, a challenge or a complaint or what have you. And you go from there. So the coordinator is not like an official formal project manager, but they are certainly there to keep the ball rolling, to keep kind of coordinating, get those folks on. Now, that's not to say that you can't communicate directly with the person doing the work. I'll be very, very clear with that, because we didn't really get into this, but the number one thing that you have to do when you outsource to anybody, anywhere in the world, is communicate. Your lines of communication have got to be strong, otherwise it's not going to succeed. So we want you communicating directly with the person doing the work where it makes sense. We mentioned design examples a couple of times. You really don't want your feedback on design going through a middle person. You want that communication going directly to the designer. They can say, oh, I get it. Okay. And then how does this look? Whereas other times the AC can delegate it, it gets done, and off they go. But we want communication, so we've got those transparent lines of communication to all different levels. Beautiful. Does that answer the question?
It completely answers the question. And as you were saying that, it made me think about another question that is probably already on a lot of people's minds that I completely forgot to address earlier, which is one of the challenges that a lot of people have is feeling like I can't afford a whole team. And when you told me about what you charge, I was really shocked. So this isn't one of those, okay, we're going to sneak the price on you when you actually, call or whatever. Tell us about how you price the different programs.
So, technically it's not even different programs, right? I mean, it's all the same program. It's how many hours can you want to use a month? Do you want to use 10 hours a month? Do you want to use 20 hours a month? Do you want to use 40 hours a month to start with? And that's on that page, doneforyousolutions.com/Mark. You choose how many hours you think you can use to begin with. And let's be transparent. The bottom level package is 10 hours a month, right? Every 30 days. Well, that's 2.5 hours of outsourced work a week. If you don't have that kind of work, you're probably not ready for me. Let's just be honest, okay? But I think I set the bar here pretty low. For some folks, obviously, they laugh at 10 hours and they go, I can give you 10 hours right now. So for those people, we can go up to 20 or 40 hours to start with. This also goes back, Mark, to the idea of starting off small. I don't want to lock you into a contract for 80 hours a month or something, right? Because what are you going to do with it? How do you know that these people are going to be a good fit for you? How do you know that this whole solution is going to be a good fit for you? So I want you starting off small, and then let's build things up over time. Can we do 60, 80, 100 hours of work for you? Absolutely. But I don't want to start there. I want to start the relationship off at a more manageable level and then build up from there. And again, you control the level. You go to doneforyousolutions.com/Mark. I get you the free trial. You pick the package that you want to start off on. It's month to month, and off we go. Does that help?
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And it's all right there on the page, and you're right. There's not different packages, just the number of hours that you want to work. And for me, I'm starting off with the 10 hours because I want to slowly unload from Renee so she doesn't freak out, as well as to figure out what the best use of that time is and being able to add on to that.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that I'll be very transparent with you, Mark, is that if this works for you, which I expect it fully will, you will order more. You'll get addicted, and you will order. I'm letting you know right now, this is what happens, that people order more. Had a client last month go through, I think, 140, 160 hours in a month. All different types because they were doing a launch. They had a deadline. They had a lot of stuff done, and we are there for them so we can scale up. So if you find yourself upgrading to 20, 40 hours a month, don't say I didn't warn you. The bright side, of course, is that means that it did work at 10 hours and you're getting a lot of stuff done. Renee is feeling a little freed up, right? And hopefully you're creating that extra leverage in your business to where, now again, my assumption here, Mark, is that you get a lot more projects done in the same amount of time it took you to do 1 or 2 now. You're probably positively impacting your bottom line. That's my assumption here, which means you're making more money, which means you're loving me and you can afford to order more hours. My model is based upon you succeeding with this. It's a consumption-based model.
And it's all about investment. I mean, we're investing not only in our future and ourselves, but in our vision and our mission and our message. And just like if you're investing in the stock market, the more money you invest, the more money you earn, and therefore you can invest more again. And I feel like that's a big part of what I'm doing with done for you solutions is I'm trying to invest in, like you just said, leveraging. I want to be able to get more done without having to feel like I have to do it all myself.
Absolutely, and without having to incur full-time costs or employee costs, and again, it's month to month. So, let's say a couple months from now, you decide you need a full-time VA because of all the stuff you passed off. Fine, you hire your full-time person, you cut us back, or however it works out. We are meant to evolve and flex and grow with the small business, which, hey, as a messenger, they are. I mean, that's typically, so it's a great flexible solution.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been really wonderful to kind of get that insight, because I know a lot of people are talking about outsourcing and trying to find different solutions, and they've either thrown their hands up or they've tried things and that haven't worked. So you taking that risk away by letting people kind of getting that trial is just a really generous offer, and hopefully gives people that comfort to take the step and to at least try it. And like you said, then they'll get more and more value out of it as they grow.
I hope so. I certainly hope so. I mean, from my perspective, I know what happens. The trial is going to work, and they continue on as an ongoing client, and they're with me for a long time. That's what my metrics say. That's what my numbers say. On average, I know that's what's going to happen. So for me, it just makes a great sense. And let's be honest. Let's be transparent. I've been screwed by outsourcers. I'm sure you've been screwed by outsourcers. So I get the fact that a lot of people are gun shy. They may have done it 2 or 3 or 4 times, and it never worked for them. Well, that could be they're approaching it the wrong way. It could be that the outsourcing company was horrible. It could be a lot of different things. So that's the other reason why I do this trial, is give us a shot. Let me give you some information. Let me kind of give you some ideas and tips and ways to kind of get used to training your VA team. And here's the free trial. Give them give them some work to actually get the work done. And let's just take it one step at a time and start small and build up.
And your reputation and the people that you work with could speak for themselves. It doesn't, this isn't absolutely necessary, but the fact that you are giving that option, that opportunity is very, very generous, and I'm grateful for that. I wonder, we're near the top of the hour. You've worked with so many different transformational agents, from some of the world's leaders to people just starting out and just kind of moving into that outsource step. What would you say, what kind of advice could you offer other messengers, whatever level they're at? What do you think is the last minute piece of wisdom that you could share with some of us?
Well, I think there are 2 things I'd love to share. Number one is let's go back to the beginning of the call. If you look around, there isn't anybody who is succeeding at a high level who is doing it all themselves. It doesn't exist. So don't fall into that trap too of, I have to do it all. For whatever reason, right? Because you're the only person that knows how to do this, or you don't have the money to outsource, or whatever the reason is, get over that. Find a way to start, because if you don't start putting together a team, you will never reach truly where you need to be as a messenger. It's not going to happen. The second thing is just to be aware that as you move forward in this process, as you bring in new people to help you spread your message, communicate with them. Do not make assumptions. They don't understand your business. They're not the dreamer. They haven't been living this message for years. They know nothing. So communicate, over communicate. And that's the real secret of success when you're outsourcing and building that team. But you don't have an option in my mind. There are no exceptions in today's business world. You have to have the team. You've got to start somewhere. That's hopefully why I've started Done For You Solutions and made this offer here for you, is that we are it for you. But even if we're not, even if you give us a shot and it doesn't work out, don't give up. You've got to have the team. It's critical. It's required. And just do it. Just your message is that important. Just go do it.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I would say, is that your message is important. And I think a lot of us start to doubt it or question it. There's all, again, goes back to that mindset stuff that can really block us from really living the bigger vision. And I think a lot of us stay in that smaller box because it's comfortable. Stepping into the bigger vision can be a challenge. And I really feel like having somebody to take off that minutia, a lot of the stuff that I don't enjoy doing, will really help me to feel more comfortable in that bigger vision. So I'm really, really excited to get started with you. And I really appreciate just the information. Like you've given a lot of really great steps that people can take, from starting off with a small project, even if you're not using Done For You solutions, if you're just doing Odesk or Fiverr, at least taking that step to helping, and that'll get you one step closer to actually having a team. But what you said about taking that step and believing in yourself, it's so important that you get your message out there. And as long as you keep thinking small, you're not serving all of those that you're meant to, and you're not really enjoying your life the way that you really could.
Great point. Great point, Mark. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast working with you as always, and I look forward to having the team produce some great results for you.
Thanks so much, Rick. And actually, if people just want to reach out to you directly if they have any questions, is it okay? Do you want to give out your email address or some way to contact you directly?
You know what? Yeah, for the folks who have been through this entire presentation, happy to do that for you. My email address is Ric, that's R-I-C, at doneforyousolutions.com. So again, that's just R-I-C, there's no K there, just R-I-C, at doneforyousolutions.com.
Fantastic. And again, go ahead to doneforyousolutions.com/Mark to sign up for your free trial with his outsourcing services, and stay connected, because there's all kinds of other stuff that you're doing that we could talk about, but this is something that I really thought was an important tool for messengers to take it to the next level.
Awesome. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you, Rick. And thank you all for joining us today on the show. Thank you for sharing your message in the world and being a part of our community. If you haven't already, you can go to inspiredmessengersnetwork.com and register for free. If you have any questions, you can always email me directly at mark@markporteous.com. And as always, I like to end by saying the light in me respects and appreciates the light in you. Namaste.